So you've come across this video, Why Peer Mediation? Maybe you have a peer mediation program and you've changed administrators and you're having to sell that administrator, or maybe you're trying to establish a peer mediation program in a neighboring school. Maybe you're a peer mediation trainer and you just need really good information. We hope that this video will provide you some basic information that you will need to sell the idea and concept of peer mediation to schools and to organizations. Hi, my name is Cynthia Morton, and I am one of the co-coordinators of the online peer mediation platform. If you're watching this short video, you're probably trying to find out more information about peer mediation and if it would be a good fit for your school or your organization. A little bit about me and my work in peer mediation. I am the former chair of the Education, Training, and Research section of the Association for Conflict Resolution. Currently, I am a peer mediation coordinator training for the online peer mediation platform. And I also run my own peer mediation program in a suburb of Atlanta, Georgia, known as Rockdale County Schools. So let's talk a little bit more about peer mediation, and let's see if this is something that you might want to consider for your school or your organization. First off, I think it's important that if you're looking into a peer mediation program, you know if you're getting enough bang for your buck. The good news is there is a lot of research that points to peer mediation having a very positive impact, not only on the school, not only on discipline, but also on the peer mediators themselves. In this short presentation, I will provide you with numerous articles that you can actually download and look at. If you're trying to maybe sell your administration, this is really good information to take to them. So we'll talk a little bit more about impact of peer mediation as we go through this short video, and at the end I will make sure that you have those resources to share. So I think you know that I'm really sold on peer mediation, and my journey with peer mediation really began in the late 80s, where I was trained by community boards. In the mid-2000s, I became a mediator. I joined the Association for Conflict Resolution and really got to become ingrained in peer mediation and how it has helped and changed students, talked to many coordinators. There are some caveats you need to be aware of. Oftentimes we see programs that are not successful. They don't have all the components that are needed to sustain a great peer mediation program. If you think you can buy a book and do a peer mediation program, you might, but it won't be self-sustaining. It really takes a committed coordinator, a supportive administrator. It takes valid, good training, reliable training. It takes committed students to make this thing work. So we're going to talk a little bit about why peer mediation is important for your school. And again, at the end, we want to make sure that we give you resources that you can take to your administrator if that is something that you're interested in doing at the end of this video. So one of the reasons why peer mediation is important is because it assists school staff in managing interpersonal conflict. One of the great selling points to any administrator is that we're going to save them time, and we're going to save them the students coming into the office with a lot of course, what we call he say, she say drama, right? One of my colleagues, Richard Cohen, who runs School Mediation Associates, has found in his research that close to 90% of all mediation sessions, when students actually go, when students know what the purpose of mediation is, when explained to them, that they end in a satisfactory agreement. That adults do not have to make the decisions for the students. The students can have agency, and the students can actually decide to settle their own conflicts. So we have found that peer mediation is not only successful in the high school level, but peer mediation can be successful in middle school and it can be successful in elementary school. So again, it assists staff in managing interpersonal conflict. Another great reason for peer mediation, and one that we should be passionate about if you're an educator, is that it allows students to learn skills to take into their real world, into relationships, into friendships, into workplace or post-secondary. And peer mediation provides a very unique opportunity for students, no matter what gender, what ethnicity, no matter what age, to learn communication, to learn problem-solving skills, and then apply these skills into their life. In fact, I think that learning conflict resolution skills, sometimes we call them soft skills, is probably one of the most important life skills that they need as they begin to grow and mature. We know that from their exposure to television and exposure to television shows that they learn the conflict styles of, that are not so positive, which often gets them into trouble. And so when they go to confront someone, they're often doing it in the wrong way. But we want to teach them appropriate conflict resolution skills so they can confront people and to be able to do it in a non-punitive environment. So we're teaching responsibility, and this is another great reason for peer mediation. Another great reason for peer mediation is because it builds self-esteem in both the disputant, who is receiving peer mediation services, but also the mediator, who is actually in charge of the peer mediation services. Why is this, you ask? Well, because mediators can feel like they're actually making a contribution to their school, and disputants actually are able to make their own decisions without the help of an adult. So this is another great reason for peer mediation. The fourth reason for peer mediation is because it helps to create a safe and welcoming school environment. And doesn't every school need a safe and welcoming environment? How does it do this? Well, number one, peer mediation promotes the feelings of belonging and control over school life. Number two, teaching conflict resolution skills decreases the anger that results from unresolved and intensifying conflicts. And we know that we can get a conflict where it's manageable. We can solve it a lot quicker if we allow it to get to the point where it is out of control and a student has to be expelled or suspended or placed in school suspension. Number three, it improves communication among students and between students. And last, it sustains relationships and begins new ones when former adversaries become friends. And I think number four is a wonderful testimony to peer mediation, because I have actually seen this happen where people were not friends, or they had been friends and they were able to understand one another. It was is actually a very beautiful moment. So this is another great reason for peer mediation. The fifth reason for peer mediation, and your administration is going to love this one, decrease in suspension and discipline. In fact, researchers have found a decrease in suspension rates just from the implementation of a peer mediation program. Now, when I say just implementation, I mean when a peer mediation program is implemented correctly, and I want to really emphasize that. Also, administrators can spend more time on conflicts that really involve true violations of school rules rather than just the average different conflicts that might be at the point where they can be referred to a peer mediation. Our friend Richard Cohen found that one school reported a 50% decrease in office referrals after operating a peer mediation program just for 1 year. So this is another great reason for peer mediation. And now our sixth and last reason for peer mediation is because peer mediation is prevention. And don't we know as educators, prevention is cheaper than intervention and postvention. It is a really great, wise use of money. It is less money than many of the violent prevention programs that are out there. And it is something that can be student-led. It is something that can really make a difference. So this is the sixth reason why we suggest peer mediation. Now that we've gone over the 6 reasons why we believe that peer mediation is important and can make a difference in your school, let's talk about what type of conflicts can be referred to peer mediation. Now this is not an exhaustive list, but these are the ones that we find the majority of the time being referred to peer mediation, including teasing, disagreements, name-calling, relationship issues, whether romantic or friendships, or maybe football players or cheerleaders, or just any type of relationship. Rumor and gossip, and that includes anything that's online, which we know is a huge problem. Harassment, cheating, stealing. After students come back from a fight, we see that they can go to mediation, so that way the fight does not reoccur, the conflict is not reignited, and also vandalism. Let's talk about what kind of conflicts are not appropriate for peer mediation, and this is important to communicate to your administrators. Fighting, we know that after a fight is totally appropriate, but if they break 2 students apart and try to bring them to mediation, we know that tempers are still high, and so that's probably not the most appropriate place for that conflict at the time. Criminal activity, bullying, we know that some programs do use peer mediation, but the online peer mediation platform does not feel that peer mediation is appropriate for a bullying situation. There are a lot of great restorative practices that may be helpful for that. Sexual assault, suicidal ideations, mental health issues, or weapons possession. So now let's talk about peer mediation's impact on conflict. So we know we all have a physiological response to conflict. The old fight, flight, freeze. I do want to add one additional one called fawn, and that is really just kind of giving in, cowering down, giving compliments, maybe not being very genuine, but just trying to appease the other person. When a conflict happens, students now have a 5th option instead of the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and that is they have a voice in and a process in which that they can solve their own conflicts without adults solving it for them. So we find that peer mediation can be very powerful in helping students and impacting conflict at schools. We've talked about a lot at this point. We've talked about the 6 reasons for peer mediation. We've talked about cases that are appropriate and not appropriate for peer mediation. And we've also talked about peer mediation's impact on conflict. So summing it up from what we talked about thus far, we know that conflict resolution, peace education, and peer mediation education programs truly have a wide range of impact on the conflict resolution skills of students. That is a powerful statement, and is a statement that some people understand and some people don't understand. And I hope so far that you are really getting this information about how powerful peer mediation can be in your school. As promised, I wanted to share some very powerful studies that will help you make your case for peer mediation. These studies go all the way back to 1997. You will be able to find these studies and more on the online peer mediation platform under resources. We are always adding new studies. If you have some information that you would like to share with us, we would love to put it on our website. So maybe you're intrigued now. And I want to give you 5 additional reasons why your school should consider a peer mediation program. First of all, we know that peer mediation programs are research-based, and they have been proven to show an improvement in behavior, academic achievement, relationships, and self-esteem. They really are easy to implement. All you need is good training, a coordinator, peer mediators. They're the most cost-effective programs out there. The biggest expense is going to be your training. They're student-led and overseen by a coordinator, and they have been found by researchers to improve school culture. So what do you really need to implement an effective program? This actually comes from the Association for Conflict Resolution standards. First of all, most important, you have to have your administrator on board. If you don't have your administrator on board, this is where you need to really sell your administrator on the concept of peer mediation and what it can do for them. You want to see if your school is ready for peer mediation. Oftentimes, schools will implement a program, the staff is ready, the administrator is ready, the coordinator is ready, but the students aren't ready. So it's important to do a needs assessment for your staff and your students. You need a really good school coordinator, and if you're watching this video, this could be you, or maybe you have someone in mind that you know of that would be amazing for this task. You want a diverse group of peer mediators. You don't have to have the smartest kids. That's not what's important, but you really want to have peer mediators from different grades, different ethnic backgrounds, and that really matters. You want to make sure that you have appropriate training. Remember, some people just buy a book. That's fine. I mean, you can buy a book and do it, but you're really not going to have a sustainable program. And you want to make sure you have a reputable trainer, that they've done it before, that they have a mediation background, a conflict resolution background. When we're looking at training, elementary school students 12 to 15 hours, also middle school 12 to 15 hours, and high school 15 to 20 hours of training. Your mediators need to practice. I can't say that enough. Here at the online peer mediation platform, we do a lot of role play, practice with students. That is very important for students to have that confidence in their skills. And you want to have advanced training. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of the advanced trainings, but such advanced trainings would include bias awareness, cultural norms, and even trauma. So how long does it take to really create a mature program? The Association for Conflict Resolution Programmatic Standards believes it takes 3 years to create a mature program. So if someone's coming in and they're going to say, hey, we're going to, get you trained and get you out the door. I mean, yeah, you can, but in order, again, for our program to be sustainable, we're looking at 3 years. So peer mediation has been around since the 80s, and it's had a lot of highs and lows. I think we're getting more interest in peer mediation over the last couple of years, but there are some things I want to tell you about to look for in the future of peer mediation. First of all, it's online. Back in 2014, the online peer mediation platform was created to really help students to be able to mediate online. So this whole idea back in 2014 was kind of, far-fetched, but because of the pandemic and online schooling, we're seeing that this idea of peer mediation being online is really coming to fruition. We also see that a lot of programs need online training. I know that our group, the Online Peer Mediation Platform group, does a whole lot of online training. Trauma-informed. The Online Peer Mediation Platform really has taken this idea of trauma-informed peer mediation, and we are now incorporating this into our online peer mediation training anytime we train schools. And that really means that we're considering how trauma impacts students. Students bring trauma to school with them, and this trauma can impact their relationships, the way that they respond to conflict, and their coping skills. Peer mediators as educators is another concept. This is where peer mediators can teach their peers how to mediate their own conflict. Back in the day, I took a training with Dr. Dan Dana, and he had this whole idea of self as mediator, and you're learning your own skills, mediation skills, to solve your own issues. When your peer mediators are not mediating, it is really good to use them in school to educate students about topics such as bullying, healthy relationships, and conflict resolution skills. I know my students, when we're not mediating, this is what we're doing. We're educating, we're informing, and we're helping students. Peer mediators can lead circles for solving classroom issues. Morning meetings have become very popular, and you can certainly use your peer mediators for that. And you can also use your peer mediators to help facilitate very difficult topics. Another document that I have alluded to in this presentation are the Association for Conflict Resolution Peer Mediation Standards. Please make sure that you check out the standards. They are the gold standard for every peer mediation program. The online peer mediation platform has a standard-based peer mediation training. We use the peer mediation standards. I do want to bring your attention to them, and they are free for download. You can download them from the Association for Conflict Resolution, and I will also make sure that you get a link to the standards. Here is the peer mediation standards. They were revised in 2007. I have to say that I am honored to work with some of the people who worked on these standards, and I've worked with them for years and served with them through ACR. You can actually go to our resources, the online peer mediation platform, and actually download these standards from there. There are a couple of the resources I do want to mention. One is our colleague Richard Cohen, who works at School Mediation Associates in Massachusetts. I want to give him a shout out, and I want to recognize all his work that he has done with peer mediation over the years. Another great article that you will find on peermediationonline.org, which is our website, Does Peer Mediation Really Work? Is a great article and one of the most up-to-date articles about peer mediation. And then another article that you can also download, Peer Mediation is a Viable Option for School Conflict Resolution Programs. So please check those articles out on our website, and check out Richard's organization too. So I've given you a lot of information, but I think sometimes we just need to speak to someone, maybe someone that has a little bit more experience, someone that knows a little bit more than we know. So I want to give you my contact information at the online peer mediation platform if you wanted to talk. This is my email address, peermediationonline@gmail.com. We do training. This is not a sales video, so I'm just really providing information. But if you wanted to talk more about training or maybe a referral in your area, we certainly can talk more. I want to thank you for just taking a time to learn more about peer mediation and consider it as a viable option at your school.